So good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Trading Psychology Mastery course, lesson 6, that should say. So we're on lesson 6 now, all right? And on lesson 6, we're going to talk about SMART goal setting, what it is. In today's lesson, I hope you guys had a chance, or if you can at this moment, to get something to write on. So we're going to have a little bit of a workshop where you guys are going to have some time to work to yourself. It's very important that you do it. So I'll give you guys a few moments if you'd like to go and source a piece of paper or your journal or your book. So I'll give you 30 seconds and I'll put this on mute so you guys can get some writing utensils and get back here to the station. We'll get started. All right, and look at that. Magically, we have lesson 6 now. So now you guys got your workbook. Let's get started, okay? We got an exciting lesson. We're switching gears once again. The first 4 lessons of this entire course were dedicated to mindset development and fostering a positive mental attitude to give you an edge psychologically over other traders, but also psychologically over yourself, to kind of give you a bond between yourself and your unconscious mind. And you learn a lot of techniques and strategies and approaches. And if you see how far you guys have come from day one, it's pretty mind-boggling to measure that progress. And then last week on Tuesday, in lesson 5, we took it to another level of the trading sabotage cycle. All right, and today we're going to goal setting. So we're getting this is the second last lesson, and it's going to be, it's a bittersweet experience for me, but as we're kind of wrapping this up, next week we're going to focus on the last lesson being building a trading routine. I'll give you guys some last-minute tools to help you out, but this is where you really need to put everything you've learned and apply it tonight. So it's going to be a very important lesson to start tying things together in preparation for the conclusion next week. All right, so what you're going to learn here today is why setting goals is important. All right, we're going to teach you what a SMART goal is. There's a little bit more depth to the traditional SMART goal definition. We're going to do a goals worksheet and a milestones worksheet, and you guys are going to work on these two. Each one of these will give you an allotment of 5 to 10 minutes to kind of do your own goals, set them for yourself. All right, we're going to elicit some strategies for you. And last but not least, we're going to talk about empty space and why it matters. All right, I'm going to publish the slides. I'm not going to publish the slides because they're part of the video, but there is some resources. So if you go in the course area underneath this lesson, you're going to find the 2 worksheets available there for print. So you can actually print those 2 worksheets out and use them for the future or even for tonight if you got a printer handy. All right, so I want to ask you guys a few questions, if you don't mind, everyone that's present here today. Who's used resource anchors in the last week, in the last several weeks? Who's been using them successfully? Those are the anchors that when triggered will give you a mental or a positive mental state. Do you guys find it's easier to recall that mental state? Is anyone re-anchoring? So if they experience something really positive throughout the week, do they follow the anchor procedures to add that and layer it? You added pictures. That's amazing. You might be a visual person. Is that correct, Lori? As much as I can. All right, great. Honesty is awesome. All right. What about daily affirmations? Are we still doing these in the morning times? Perfect. And daily gratitude journal, gratuity. That's amazing, Scott. Are you seeing a change? Scott saying 10 times in the morning plus the evening. Verbally, 10 things every morning. Awesome. Are you noticing that those affirmations are starting to feel real? Are they starting to manifest themselves around you in the physical realm? Yeah, Scott says, oh yeah, that's amazing, Scott. Congratulations. Are you guys still trading in Hakalau state? I know this is the one that's a little bit tough to remember to do, but the expanded awareness state, the Hakalau, which comes from the Hawaiian culture. And here's the other question. How about, have you had a chance to identify yourself in the sabotage cycle of trading that we talked about last week and pulled the chute to exit out of that? Have you found yourself in the self-sabotage cycle and did something about it to exit and prevent yourself from otherwise losing trade? Who's been able to apply that? And I think the tip there is to print out the sabotage cycle and to keep it handy by your desk, to know which step you're possibly in and to help use that to reevaluate your opportunity. Exactly, Lori. That's a very important piece, all right? I want you guys to print that out and have it handy by your desk for this next week because I'm going to ask you about it next Tuesday. All right, anyone do the 5-2-3 breathing exercise? 5 seconds in, 2 second hold, 3 second out. Amazing. Do you find that it slows down your mental state and brings you into now? If you're ever too far forward or regretting or dwelling in the past or dwelling in the past? Big time. Yeah, that's a really powerful one. Marjorie says she loves on it. Great, Marjorie. I'm really happy. I use it often as well. Sometimes when Victorio and the lads over here, Trade Pro, get on my nerves. Just kidding. That never happens. And last but not least, has anyone re-listened to the superhero pattern, or do they kind of feel empowered by it? Has anyone seen some changes because of that? Okay, cool. Well, that means you guys, I'd say probably about 90% of you are applying this stuff and using it at least immediately, and I guess the other 10 of you will apply it at some point in the future. I know it's a lot to take in for some people, and it's sort of the norm for others. But anywho, point is, apply this stuff because it's really good to know it, but it's only going to work when you actually use it. All right, so today we're going to talk about something really interesting. Yeah, Laurie, would you remind me at the end of the webinar, and if we have time, I could redo the script actually. Great work, Laurent. Very proud of you, man. Heard good things from Victorio. All right, let's look at the life wheel. So this isn't new to you guys. I think we talked about this. There's 6 stages of life that you're at any given moment that you could work on, or that you could choose to invest your energy or money or time on, or all of the 3. And they're as follows: career, which is one that most people overinvest in, typically to spend too much into that and throws the wheel out of balance. Remember, why is it a wheel? Because it needs to be even around the circumference, otherwise it won't roll. It's not a wheel. If you put all your weight into career but nothing else in the other ones, it's not a wheel. That won't roll very smoothly. It's not a wheel I'd want to have on my car. All right, family is another one of them. Relationships, and relationships is a really deep one, because if you think about it, you have a relationship to everything, to your career, to your family, to yourself. So relationships is a super, super big one. Personal growth and development, all right, health and fitness, and spirituality. So those are the 6 areas of life that you can work on in your life wheel. And what I want to tell you guys here, we're going to focus, and we do focus on career, because trading is a career path that you've all chosen to partake in, at least somewhat seriously. The other 5, though, I would not leave them hanging. What I'm going to tell you is this. Tonight, we're going to focus on our SMART goals on career once again. But I will tell you this. You need to put an equal amount of effort on all of these, all 5 and all 6. You got to be building them all out together. Otherwise, that wheel won't roll no matter how much you invest in one. All right. The goal of these is to put a number beside them. So as you look at this right now, I want you to just spend under a minute and give yourself from 0 to 10 on this wheel of how satisfied you are with these. All right. I'm going to do my personal one. Career, I'd say I'm a solid 10 on that. All right. Family, I'll be honest with you, I haven't put a lot of my time and attention on that. And that's something I'm trying to work on. All right. Relationships, I say I have good relationships. Give myself an 8 for that. Personal growth and development, give myself a 10. Health and fitness, maybe an 8. Spirituality, I'd give myself, you know what, a 7 as well. As you can see, this is it for me. This is my life wheel at this point in my life. If you listen to this recording 4 years from now, it's probably going to be different. But the goal here is to get everything up to be a 10. All right. Even the biggest skepticism and skeptics and non-believers who say, there's no such thing as a perfect thing. There is a perfect thing. It's you. You want to get all these to a 10. And then somebody will ask, well, what happens when you get it to a 10? Does that mean my life is over? I've accomplished all my goals? No, the idea here is to then make that circle bigger. Get it to a 10, everything to a 10. Once you do that, the idea is to make your new 10 a 1 and start fresh and work your way back up to a 10. When everything becomes a 10, make that a 1 and continue going. You are a living being. All human and living beings need growth for survival. Right? In fact, if you look at satisfaction, if you look at what happiness is, it all comes down to growth, the ability to grow, to experience new things, to live, and really to just, the G word is an important one, growth. All right? Absolutely. If somebody wants to live in integrity, which is a common phrase these days, the wheel needs to be balanced. A definition of integrity is being whole and complete, and that's exactly it, right? You got to put as much time and energy into all of these to get them well balanced and moving together. Because I'll tell you one thing, many people think that, hey, if I put a 10 on my career is going to take off. But your career will take off more if it's just a 5, but you're a 5 everywhere else, than if it's just a 10 on career and you got 1s across the board and you've sacrificed everything else for that career. All right? Balance is easier to maintain and grow from than one area that's lopsided. All right? You're creating an imbalance in your life, which then spills over to your habits, to your environments, and it begins to recreate things in a way that you don't like. Why? Because happiness means 10 all across the board on all of them. So I'm going to challenge you to continuously look to be a 10 across all 6 of these life areas. I know careers where we focus, but all of these are super important as well. All right? So when we talk about SMART goals tonight, everything we cover in the rest of this webinar, you can apply to any one of those 6. And I would challenge you to do all 6 at the same time. Have at least one big goal for all 6. All right? And that's going to help you live a balanced life. It's going to help you grow equally across all channels. Right? I would never suggest sacrificing for the long term one of these 6 for another. It's not a choose the one you want when you want. It's a build them all evenly and see amazing things happen in your life. All right? So why set goals? I'll show you guys why to set goals. Anyone heard of the 80-year Harvard study of adult development? It's very revealing. Has anyone heard of it or seen? There's actually a TED Talk on it as well. I found this mind-blowing, and I'm sure you will as well. Yeah, Scott, there you go. Scott, I'm going to mute you. You already know. The 80-year Harvard study of adult development is pretty cool. It's a study basically to trace lives of a graduating class in Harvard and an inner city group of Boston working class, blue collar young adults, young adolescents. And what it did is it traced their lives. It was supposed to be a shorter period of time. This study is still ongoing. All right. And it tracked 725 people over 75 plus years, and 80% of survey respondents at the beginning of this study said that their life goal is to get rich. And you think about where these people are coming from. These are college kids, right? Obviously, their life is to get rich. Their goal is to get rich. Another 50% said, I want to be famous. Riches and fame is a goal that people chase, especially in their early years. And here's where it gets interesting, all right? Studying those people, to this very day, this happened in the 1930s, 60 people are still in the study, all right, and they're in their 90s. 60 people in the study are in their 90s. There's more than 60. And the way they do this is they survey them annually. But not just that, they send them medical records. They send them all kinds of intrusive questionnaires in the name of science. They've now included these participants' wives as well in the study. They do medical records, all kinds of research, and it's expanding. All right. The groups that were tracked were sophomores from Harvard and boys in a rough Boston neighborhood in the 1930s. All right. Here's the thing. Unfortunately, this is predominantly males. When it started, it was all males. Now it's expanded to have females. It's still disbalanced towards a male sentiment. In the 1930s, you just have to understand how society was structured. I think we're breaking through a lot of those norms and societal barriers, and thank goodness, because I think, in today's day and age, this is the era of the modern woman, and amazing. It's time it happened. All right. So anywho, it was mostly boys. So when you look at the term boys, that's why. Okay. Here's the results. The results are fascinating. First of all, when they asked a study, I found this part really funny. They asked some of the questions to Boston Harvard grads, and the Boston boys said, why do you keep asking me these questions? My life is boring. And I don't understand why you keep asking me this every year about the study. Like, what's going on? And not a single person from the Harvard grad said that. But interestingly enough, here's some stats. The lessons were not about hard work. We're going to get the goals in a moment. It's not how hard you worked. There was one key driver for all successful people. The people that were successful, by the way, part of the study, one of them was a president of the United States. There's a few that have reached a lot of success, and others who have done that journey in the reverse order. They started successful and got really poor. So they've tracked a lot of different life cycles, and it's not about hard work. All right, here was the key. Good relationships keep us happier and healthier. That's what it came down to. All right, when they looked at the data, everything that correlated showed that success comes down to good relationships. All right, and another one was that loneliness kills, literally. those that identified as being lonely, even if they had a spouse or partner, but felt lonely in the relationship, that led to a lot of negative outcomes. And even the people who had turbulent relationships with their spouses, but still relied on one each other and felt like they had each other's back, were happier and healthier. And that was formed as a good relationship. All right. Here's another cool stat. People most satisfied with relationships in their 50s were healthier in their 80s. Isn't that nuts? Isn't that a cool stat? This course, I don't know if you guys realize this, is this entire course, the way it was structured, it was called the Trading Psychology course, but it really could have been called the Better Improve Your Relationship with Yourself course. Honestly, because at the end of the day, that's what we've done. We've improved our communication channel between ourselves, and our conscious and subconscious minds are becoming connected. I don't know if you guys know this, if any of you have taken NLP, but even in presenting this information, I'm using embedded commands and using NLP techniques to help you succeed. Right? There's things I'm talking to your subconscious mind that your conscious mind is not quite grasping, but they're there, they're implanted to help you out. All right. What about goals? Here's where it gets crazy. This is a lesson on goals. Goals were the guide. Of all the members of the study, what percentage do you guys think had written down goals? Scott, you're disqualified, by the way. Just throw a number in there. What percentage of all the people in the study do you think had written goals? 10%, 35%, 50%, 30, 25%. All right. 2% said one person. 3% had written goals and plans. Only 3% had written goals and plans. And you think about it and you ask yourself, hey, look, what part of the population do you want to be? How do you get to be the top 3% or the top 1%? Well, look, there's a trend here. All right. So 3% had written goals and plans. That 3% group of people had more combined net worth than what percentage of the study? Some of you guys are good with math. 97, yes. The 3% had combined net worth more than the rest of the 97% of the people. All right? The 3%. Let's put that into context. 3 people had more combined net worth than the other 97. And if you look at that, it's representational, a little bit of society, right? The wealth is really concentrated. But I'm going to challenge you guys to say that wealth is not happiness. Wealth is not happiness. There's a lot of metaphors around this, like money doesn't buy you happiness, but it's a good down payment. Another one is money doesn't buy you happiness, but it's best that you find out for yourself, which is one of my favorite quotes in the world. But happiness is not wealth. Happiness is relationships. And you don't need wealth to have relationships. You have every single thing in you right now to have the best possible relationship, because that's a God-given, it's a world-given. If you're not a religious person, it's an energy-given thing to you. And I'll show you something at the end of this webinar that's going to absolutely blow your mind. It's really cool stuff. All right. Also, they reported more satisfaction and happiness overall. And that's just the study. It's an amazing study, continues to run. It's one of the longest studies, the longest ongoing studies of human trends. Now, here's the reality of goals, guys. Goals are intentions. Do you agree? To have a goal is to intend to do something. You know what, Ronnie? The same thing that causes this, Ronnie asked what held the other 97 from writing goals, the same thing that sort of holds the rest of us back from anything, right? Not enough time, but we all have 24 hours in a day. It's just not prioritizing having a goal, thinking that having a goal in your head is enough and not writing it down. All right. Goals are intentions. Do you guys agree? To have a goal is to have an intention. All right. If you have intention to do something, you're giving it your attention. Do you agree with that? All right. When you give something attention, you're giving it thought. You're thinking about it. Correct? And when you think, that creates imagery in the mind. And life is images of the mind expressed. Whatever you imagine, you create. All right? basically what you think is, and that starts with a goal. If you don't have a goal, how do you govern your thinking? You don't. And there's a really cool saying that says it's not about goals, it's about plans, but it's similar. If you don't have a plan, you're part of somebody else's, right? And that's the reality of the situation. So that's the reality of what a goal will help you achieve. What you think is, and having a goal dictates what you think. All right. So here's how you set SMART goals. In tonight's webinar, I want to jump right into some tangible stuff. I'm going to talk to you about SMART goals. You guys have probably heard the metaphor before, or the acronym: simple, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. That's a SMART goal. This is from NLP. This is from Neurolinguistics Programming. It attaches a few very important, but small details, but super important. All right. The small details is the difference in many businesses. All right. The S stands for specific. You need to have a specific goal. It's got to be simple. And you got to see yourself in that goal. All right? You got to see yourself attaining that goal. I'm going to tell you something in terms of manifestation. Those of you that are big into it, when you think about something, like, for example, let's say you want to get a Ferrari for whatever reason. Shallow goal, but to you that's a token of success. You want it, you deserve it. And you imagine yourself driving the Ferrari. You're behind the steering wheel. Here's where the problem is. Your mind, we've talked about this before, your brain doesn't know the difference between something you're doing physically or something you're imagining that you're doing. If you sat there and shot a basketball on a basketball court, or you close your eyes and visualize yourself with as much vivid detail as you possibly can that you're shooting a basketball, from how it feels, the grip on your fingertips, how it leaves the arch, what your hand does after, your breathing patterns, your brain does not know the difference between the two. So what does that mean? That means if you're behind the wheel of the Ferrari and you're actually the one driving it, what does your brain say? It is kind of like psycho-cybernetics, Scott. Your brain says, I already got that. Next goal. Done. Exactly, Ronnie. Done. So the S, one of the most important details here in a SMART goal is that when you have a goal, you don't see yourself having achieved the goal, because right away it makes it less attractive to your unconscious mind. You see yourself outside of your body in that goal. You don't see yourself on the hand on the steering wheel. You see yourself on the passenger side watching yourself drive that car. Very important distinction. That's called dissociated. Because now your brain says, I want that. I want that guy. I see myself as being that guy. Now let me create it so I get a first-hand experience. Right? So all of your goals start by being dissociated, specific and simple. Me too, Ronnie. Me too. I did it that way as well, and that's why I found that I'm a very visual person, and I've been meditating for quite some time, and I could visualize things very vividly. And because of that, at one point, it started to kill my motivation. And when I started visualizing things as not actually possessing them, but experiencing them through a dissociated angle, things changed. I started to want them more. All right, so that's the S. The M on SMART goals is measurable. So it has to be measurable. You can't say, I want to be rich. Okay, well, what's rich to you? Is it in money? Is it in happiness? Is it in health? Define rich. And most importantly, the other M is that it has to be meaningful to you. It's got to make you want it. If it's not meaningful to you, if your family's told you all along you have to work for a big bank and you have to value stability, and you say, I want to be in a stable job, is that meaningful to you? Probably not. It's not a good goal if it's not meaningful to you. And people ask me, well, how do I know if it's meaningful to me? If you have to ask, the answer is no, it's not. Simple. All right. The A part of SMART goals is achievable. All right. And as if now. All right. Act like this goal that you have is achievable right now. Say you want to make $1,000 a day trading, and you say in a year, that's my goal. Act as if though that's possible today. If you don't think it's possible today, you're not going to do the work today necessary to get you there. All right? Believe that as if it's possible today. It also has to be achievable. It can't be something like, I want to become the next, Buddhist monk, unless you really want that. And all senses involved. Here's what I'm going to tell you. All senses involved means that you got to be there with all 5 of your senses. And for those of you that do a little bit more meditating and are connected, 6 senses as well. You have to see it in that sense. So the A part of this is all senses involved. When you put your goal down, what will it feel like, look like, smell like, taste like, sound like? I don't care if your goal doesn't have a taste. Think about it because it makes it more real. All right. The R stands for realistic. I don't like the realistic term. I think everything is realistic if you're passionate enough and it means enough to you. But this is the next one that I really believe in. It has to be responsible and ecological. All right. If you want to actualize a goal that's going to hurt somebody else for you to achieve it, the universe is not on your side. It's going to be impossible for you to get that goal. So before you have a goal, ask yourself, if I do get this, who would I hurt? Just ask yourself, would it hurt anybody? All right. Would it benefit society overall? Would it benefit humanity? Would it benefit the whole? Would it benefit the world, the universe? When you're in alignment with benefiting the universe will benefit you. And it's true. And I'll show you scientific proof that you and I are connected right now, even though you guys are on the other side of the world. All right. And the T stands for Trade Pro Academy. I'm just kidding. The T stands for timed. There's got to be a time frame. And the other T that's the most important here on SMART goals is toward what you want. All right. Having an away goal is not motivational. What do I mean by away? When you think about money, if somebody tells you, I want to make a certain amount of money a day trading, and I ask them, well, what would you do with that money? Or what drives you to make that kind of money? If they say, I don't want to be poor, that's called away. I don't want to be like my parents. I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be like my cousin, that kind of thing. That means you're moving away from something. Away is not a motivational strategy for the long term. If your goal is away motivated, I would get you to reconsider the whole SMART goal. Maybe structure in a way that it's toward. You got to be moving towards something you want. I want to help my family. I want to help others. I want to give back. I want to create sustainable outcome for the world. I want to be responsible. That's toward. All right? That's what a goal should be. Do you guys understand what a SMART goal is? Okay, so what we're going to do next is why does it trip you up, Scott? What about realistic trips you up? Just curious. Yes, Marjorie, exactly. That's correct, Marjorie. That's exactly right. You have to, because the first one doesn't mean anything. The first one is such a negative way to look at it. The second one is so much more positive, right? The second one is everlasting. The first one's temporary. It's not motivational enough. Does that make sense? Scott, what is realistic? Whatever you believe, Scott. If you ask yourself, is this realistic? And you're kind of like questioning it, maybe you don't believe in it, then it's not realistic to you. All right? To somebody who's been in space, to be an astronaut was realistic. To me, it's not, personally. Attainable is kind of realistic, which is kind of achievable as well, right? Achievable means it's physically possible to be done without any kind of miracle, and realistic means it's realistic for you. And then that also shows it's responsible for you to get. These all kind of mesh in. When you have a SMART goal and you write it down, you'll know it's the right one. All right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you guys 7 minutes, and I want you to create a SMART goal for trading. All right, I want you to put thought into this. I want you to put time into it. Do you guys all have your paper and journals? This goal setting worked for me 3 years in a row. Need to keep it up. Amazing, Wendy. It's going to work for the next 30. Next 300, it'll work. I want you guys to sit down, quietly reflect. I'm going to pause this and go on mute. I'll give you 5 minutes to start, and I'll check in with you because we do have a lot of stuff to get through. Write out your trading goal. So that's a career focus, but more importantly, your goal in relation to trading. Okay, it's now 8:33 a.m. Eastern. I will see you at 8:38. As you're done, can you please put done in the questions box, just so I know how many of you guys are completing this. There's the template. It's also on the website. So later on, if you want to make it more formalized, you could print this out, hang it on the wall, do whatever you will with it. Just for now, just scratch out a piece of paper. You could always transfer it on this and give it some more thought later. Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Just one goal. Yes, absolutely, Ronnie. Just one goal. Should take you about 5 minutes, 1 minute on each thing, and really think about it. All right? Write on there whatever you want. For example, foresee yourself in it. What will you see when you get that goal? If it's measurable, what kind of measurement would it be? What would tell you that you could measure it? Is it meaningful to you? Why? What makes it meaningful? All senses involved, what would it feel like, look like, sound like? Right? If it's realistic, why is it realistic? Right? How is it responsible? Who will it help or who will it hurt? What is it driving you towards, and what time frame are you going to put on it? All right, just one goal, 5 minutes. I'll be back. For those of you that are listening to this in the recorded version and are in the course, you can now press pause, because the next couple seconds I'll be back after the 5 minutes. All right, so press pause now and do the exercise. Okay, guys, let's move forward with it. If you're not done, you could spend some more time on the worksheet, print it out, and create a formal one. Even if you participated here live, I would encourage you to do it again in your own setting and see if you can get more information out of yourself. So I got a few of you to contribute or give me your examples. I know it's a lot to type, so it's kind of the overarching goal for the next step. So I'm going to use some of the examples without using your name to show you what you could kind of do with the next step. So once you have a SMART goal, you want to read it back to yourself, all right? You want to read something like, it is now, somebody said a month, $1,000 per week within the next month. It is now July 5th. I'm making $1,000 per week trading. What kind of trading? All right, it has to be measurable. It's $1,000 per week. You got to believe it's possible now. It's achievable. How would it feel? All right, as you're going through that, explain that to yourself verbally. And what is it moving towards greater than just $1,000 per week? What will you do with that money? So once you kind of have the SMART goal, it's almost like not a goal, it's like an idea, almost like a little bit of a state, a mind state that you're going to be in at that time. Once you have that, you could move to the next step of the process. And that next step is, let me share the screen with you. That next step is, let me get back to this for a second, is the milestones. All right. So what you want to do from this point forward is, when will you meet your goal? So you start with that. Let's say, for example, somebody said within a month. So we're going to say July 5th. I'm going to start, my goal will be met. All right, perfect. That goal is already done. We're assuming that it's already happened. To be there on July 5th, where will you need to be? If it's a 1 month goal, you need to break it down by week. If it's a year goal, break it down by month. If it's a 5-year goal, break it down by year. The last year, break it down by month. All right, so shorter term goals break into smaller periods. Longer term, you could break into longer period goals, milestones rather. So where will you need to be 3 weeks before the month? So you go backwards basically, and then ask yourself, what will it look, feel, and sound like at that point? Because remember, progress is what equals happiness. I've talked to thousands of people and I've narrowed it down that what is happiness? Progress. One word is all the happiness is. All right, so what will it look, feel, and sound like? So you can imagine yourself being closer to your goal. Sometimes a goal seems so far away from where we are today, but if you imagine yourself from your 1 month goal 3 weeks into it, how will it feel? Right? And then the next thing you want to do is repeat it for 2 weeks. How will it feel? What would you have need to achieve? And that's where the next sheet comes into hand. And basically until you get to now, until this very moment. So here's what the milestones look like, the worksheet. What you're going to put here is your ultimate goal, summarize it, or heck, there's going to be some white space when you print this out. You could fill in the full goal or just have your goal sheet stapled to it. The date that you want to achieve this goal. Not the date that you want to achieve, the date that you have already achieved it. Don't say I want to achieve it by this. Say I have already achieved it. It's now July 5th and I've achieved this goal. All right. What will need to be accomplished? Let's say it's a monthly goal by week 3. What would you need to have done? These are tangible things. I need to have maybe I made $500 a week demo trading. All right, I need to be doing my gratuity journal every single morning and affirmations. I need to be managing risk with no lack of disciplines. And then here, personify it, give it life. What will it look like, feel, and sound like? What would that person at that stage of the milestone look, feel, and sound like? Okay, and then break it down to week 2. 2 weeks into the journey. You got to go backwards. You got to reverse engineer this because it's closer. It's easier to know what you need to do 1 week or 1 month before a goal than it is now because it seems so far away, right? So go backwards. Week 2, what will need to be accomplished? And you're going to find something interesting. If I asked you before we did this exercise, here's a goal, 3 weeks into it, where should you be? You won't know. But if you already imagine yourself having achieved the goal and you ask yourself, what would it need to be accomplished for me to be there? It's so much easier. And your unconscious mind has the answer. Remember, it's that intuitive answer you're looking for, right? Week 2, week 1, you want to print another copy of this sheet. Ask yourself 3 days into it, 1 day into it, and today, what do I need to do? When you do this exercise, you want to walk away with your last milestone being right now. And you've reverse engineered it, so now you know what you have to do right away in order to get to that. And what you've done by putting these milestones down is you've actually created reality. You've created the template. You've told your unconscious mind, if I've accomplished this by this date, this is what that journey looked like. What you've created is an instructions booklet for your unconscious mind to get you to where you want to go. Yeah, absolutely, Wendy. This is actually in the PDF. Do you guys want to see where it is? All right, so what you've created is exactly what you said, Scott. It's a plan at the end of the day. And when you lay this out, first of all, you're putting this out there into the universe. You're sending out the message. You're putting out the energy of you having accomplished it. You're breaking it down to smaller steps, and you know what you need to do. And you're also providing an instruction booklet for your unconscious mind to do this. And the reason we have this right column, do not ignore this column. For goodness sake, for the analytical brains, do not just chop this page off and say, who cares what it looks, feels, and sounds like? Because remember this, when you visualize something, the thing that makes it real to your brain is attaching the emotion to it. All right, the emotion's like the amplitude. It's like the gas pedal. The more that you put into the right side of this, the very right column, the faster the other two will work. Cool? Thank you, Tasha. That's really sweet. You're such a positive person, Tasha. We're thankful to have you on board. But do you guys understand this? Do you see how this is a powerful tool? Now, here's the next question. Do I have all of your absolute commitment that you're going to do this for trading and for your most important goal for all other 5 stages of your life circle? Remember, it's a verbal promise. So basically, as of now, you could put on your milestone that you've promised to do this. Okay? Okay, great. Any questions on this or comments? Me too. Tosh, honestly, I've done a lot of goal planning, and I could always do more. Goal planning is never complete. All right. For those of you that like completion, this isn't something you'll ever complete. They always change. Once you accomplish them, you go on to new goals because remember, your life wheel expands out to be a 10, and then once you hit a 10, you go down a 1. This task will never end. This task ends, unfortunately, when you do. And so do it without the end in mind. Do it with just the progress. Go for the journey. All right. What time frames? It depends. Scott, that's a really good question. What time frames do I use for my SMART goals? Depends on where I'm at in my wheel. For family, I think I've got good family relationships. I just need to put more time aside for them. So, that time frame will be much shorter. For career, depends on what kind of career goal. If it's for the business, for Trade Pro Academy, I could do one that's longer term, 5-year plan, drop it down to 1 year. In fact, you could do both. But I would start by doing one SMART goal, start with career, and then go to the one that's next most important to you. And do the most important goal that you think will give you the highest amount of growth in that stage of the life cycle. You know what I mean? If you think you could do this one thing, the SMART goal, and it will take your, personal growth from a 5 to a 10, do that goal. That's an important goal. Do one goal for each stage of that cycle, the life wheel that we talked about. So you have 6 goals at the end of this exercise. Take you an hour, take you 2 hours. This could be a good time to take some time off yourself, go somewhere quiet, spend time with yourself and work on this. It's very empowering. Did that answer your question, Scott, or I just thoroughly confused you? So let's talk about goals in a journey. I thought about an analogy. The brain loves a story. It'll definitely be more than 2 hours because you got to kind of think about, first of all, what's wrong. And start with this. Before you do the goal, say, what do I want to fix? Or what do I want this life cycle wheel to look like? And then ask, in this area, what do I want my family relationships to be like? What do I want my relationships to be like? What do I want my family to be like? What do I want my health and fitness to be like? Start there. Say, how am I responsible for it? Now you start to get the brain thinking. Use all the stuff we've learned before for this exercise. All right? What am I changing? What are you changing, or what am I changing as a question? That's a good question. The human brain loves an analogy and a story. Statement. All right, perfect, Laurie. That's a good statement. What am I changing? That's a great statement to ask yourself in each one of these life wheel quadrants. They're not quadrants, they're octot. Anyways, I'm an immigrant. Reaching your goals is a journey. I'm going to tell you guys this. Goals are the destination. That's why they're so important. If you don't know where you're going, how do you know when you're going to get there? Is that an accurate statement? Goals are the destination. The desire to achieve them is your vehicle. If you don't have a vehicle and your destination is across the state, you're probably not going to get there. So you have to have desire. If you don't have the desire to achieve that goal, it's not a good destination to shoot for you. Change that destination. There's no point of going there if you don't want to be there. All right, you'll be walking. Exactly, you'll definitely be walking. Your positive mindset is your GPS. If you have a positive mindset, it'll tell you the right turns to take. Your unconscious mind will work for you and with you. It's a very loyal servant. It preserves your body and actualizes all your goals. Remember that. But your actions are the fuel. You could have the car, you could have the destination, you could have the GPS all fully charged, but you ain't got no gas in the tank, you're not going anywhere. All right, so you have to take action. It's very important. If you don't take action, you're sending a message to the universe that you're okay with what you got. And if you're okay with what you got because you're not taking action, it'll continue to give you more of the same. Simple, but it makes sense. All right, so what we're going to do now is I want you guys to look at your goal. We're going to do a fun little exercise. This is one of my favorite things from NLP. I use this quite often. So I want you to pull up your goal on a piece of paper. Throw yes in the chat box when you have it right in front of you. Okay. I want you guys to answer this to yourself. I'm not going to pick on any one person in particular, but just kind of ease up off the keyboard, relax, kind of shake your arms out a little bit. Just get natural and relaxed. I want to ask you guys this. What is the very last thing that will happen to let you know you've gotten this goal? You don't have to type. You don't have to answer. Just think. What is the very last thing that will happen to let you know that you've gotten this goal? All right. Now, when you got that thing, feel it. Like, absolutely feel what it feels like. See yourself seeing that thing, all right? What will the visuals be like? What will the sounds be like? What will you see, hear, feel? All right, really get into it. I mean, this is something that you're going to know that will absolutely happen to you once you've gotten this goal. All right, what I want you to do is take a step forward in your mind's eye and step into that moment. All right, that's the very last thing that will happen to let you know that you've gotten this goal. Step into that moment. And what I want you to do is, if it's a black and white picture, make it color. If it makes you want it more, and if it feels more real, if it feels more worthy, if it feels more right to your unconscious mind, make it color. If not, leave it black and white. If it's color, make it black and white. If that image to you in your mind's eye is close, distance it a little bit. See if it makes you want it more, if it feels more authentic. If not, keep it close. try to move that image around a little bit. All right, move it to an area where it feels right, where it feels very motivational, where it feels like you're actually there. It's almost like you don't know if your eyes are open or closed because it's that real. If it's moving, slow it down. If slowing it down doesn't help, speed it up. Adjust that until it starts to feel better. If it's blurry, focus it. If it's already focused, try to blur it a little bit. See how that feels. Whatever feels right, adjust that. Kind of like the knob on a TV or the knob on the sound system, and you're playing around with the bass and treble. Adjust these knobs until it feels perfect for you. All right? If it's in a frame and you blow it out to be panoramic, does it feel better? If it's panoramic already, what if you put it in a frame? Whatever feels right, set it to that point. All right? Like a TV set. Make it desirable. Make you want it so bad that you wish it was right now. And right at the peak of really seeing that precise moment, the last thing that will happen to let you know you've got this goal, when you're in that moment, when it feels absolutely the best, I want you to take a step out of it and see yourself there, seeing that image. You're no longer in the body. You're not experiencing through your own eyes. You're seeing yourself, seeing it. All right? Now what I want you to do, guys, is close your eyes. Remember the timeline using time techniques? I want you to float above your timeline. Go up from now, wherever you are in your room. See yourself just visually floating all the way up, looking down. And we all know that the timeline to the subconscious mind doesn't have to be straight, but one way looks like the past, one way looks like the future. All right, so get in touch with that timeline, float above it, see yourself in the room now. All right, now breathe 4 breaths into this internal representation, and each breath that you put into it, when you exhale, picture getting stronger, the emotions behind it, the happiness of you accomplishing this goal. Right? The people that will benefit from you, yourself, your family, how your life's going to get better. The things you're going to have, the freedom, the excitement. And each time you do it, say ha. Just say ha, like you're going to kind of energize something. And do this. It's very important. Do it 4 times, and each time you do it, picture getting exponentially stronger and more desirable. Now what I want you guys to do is floating above the timeline. Take that internal representation up to you that you created and move to the point that your subconscious mind says it's the future to you, to your timeline. All right? Move to the date that you specified your goal is going to be accomplished by. Float over that date and look right down on it and visualize the date. For the person said a month, it would be July 5th. Look down, it's July 5th. And what I want you to do is, with your hand, stick your hand out in front of you, making a fist. And that internal representation of what you see as feeling, the thing that we energize with 4 breaths, it's so big, it's so powerful in your hand, just open it and drop it down towards your timeline. And as you drop it, visually see it just falling towards the timeline slowly. And as it hits the timeline, like a drop of water when it hits the body of water, it sends a ripple. Like a wave traveling through the water from the future, it travels right back to the now, all the way through, literally changing the course of what your future is going to be like and implanting that goal into it. All right? And realize that what you've just done is change the future for you to accomplish that goal. You've literally changed the shape of your timeline with that goal in mind. And as you look back to now, you see the ripple stop, and you see the ripple continue into the future, not just to the date of your goal, but beyond, and your life changing, your timeline changing with the effect of that goal into your future. Now go to 15 minutes past that goal. The exact time, exact date. Go to 15 minutes past that goal on your timeline and see a visual of yourself. Look down on yourself enjoying that. and travel right back to now over your computer. Drop down into the moment. Feel the seat on your butt. Feel the keyboard on your hands, the mouse in your hand, whatever it is. Open your eyes and see the room around you. You just put your goal into your future. And that's powerful. All those timeline techniques that we learned in terms of releasing fear, releasing anxiety, releasing trading emotion, that stuff, that was all preparation for this. So when you're in touch with your timeline, you're training your subconscious mind to listen to your timeline, to respect it, to treat it as real, because it is real. Cool. So you could use this technique. You could replay this at any point and implant goals into your future. Just make sure that the goals are ecological, because this does change what's going to happen to you. It changes your outcome. You basically done the same exercise as the milestones, just energetically. That's why it's important to have those milestones. All right. Now I want you after this. No problem, Tasha. That's amazing. It's a powerful technique. It's very powerful. You can elicit a lot of different emotions in people, and that's what makes it real. That's what makes it very powerful. All right. So what I want you guys to do after this, and I want all of your commitment, is at some point in the next couple of days when you have some alone time, do this process. Start by creating a SMART goal. All right. Create all the milestones. And remember how the right column where it's all visualizations, what are you going to see, hear, feel? That's going to help the ripple in your timeline. And then see this, listen to this audio, this technique of putting a goal into your future, and place that into the future. If you have a really strong SMART goal and a really strong plan working back through the milestones work list, when you implant it into your future, there's no way it's not going to happen. It's already happening. Cool? How was that for you guys? Sweet. Great. All right. Sweet and great is good. All right. Let's move forward. We got one more technique to do and a few other things to cover. It's going to be 10 minutes tops. Okay. So we are actually almost done. This one was a shorter one. Here's a common question I get. What if I don't know the answers? The questions that I'm asking in the worksheet, like how does it feel, whatever. You do know them, and I'll give you guys a really interesting question. When somebody says, I don't know, I get that a lot, Well, what do you want? I don't know. Or how could it be different? I don't know. My favorite question to say is, I know you don't, but if you did, what would it be? Powerful, right? And that rewords it in an unconscious mind, and an answer will pop out. Go with the thing that kind of just jumps out at you as you're going through this exercise. All right. We're going to do one more thing. Motivation is very important. Remember, motivation and desire is the fuel and the gas tank of your car. So what we're going to do next, this is a really short one. And I want you guys to kind of, once again, go back to that relaxed state and close your eyes for this. And I want to ask you this. Can you recall a time when you felt totally motivated? All right. Can you recall a specific time when you were so motivated? All right. And as you go back to that time now, feeling what you felt, hearing what you heard, seeing what you saw, what was the very first thing that caused you to be motivated? Was it something you saw, something you heard, or something you felt? After you saw, heard, or felt that, what was the very next thing that happened as you felt totally motivated? Did you picture something, say something to yourself, or have a certain feeling or emotion? After you did that thing, did you know that you were totally motivated, or did you do something else? Before you took action for what you were motivated. Does anybody mind You can open your eyes now, come back to the room. Does anybody want to share what that specific thing was? What was the very first thing that caused you to feel motivated? It was a specific time. For example, maybe motivated to lose weight. What was the thing that made you get motivated? And was it something you felt, heard, or saw? So it's probably something you saw in that, right? Felt and saw. So what you guys now have is when you do this exercise, it's very quick, it's very simple, but very powerful. You have your motivation strategy. Most people's motivation strategy is see something, feel something, motivated, and they do something. Basically, not everybody's, but most people will see an image or see something they like. They see the body they want. And then they'll feel like when they have it, things around them will change. Now you're going from motivation to the next step being act. Once you know your motivation strategy, all you got to do is replicate it. All right? Once you know how you get motivated, how you go from motivation to action, you have your strategy. All you got to do is replicate that. If your strategy was visualize and then see and then feel, surround yourself by visuals that are going to motivate you towards your goal. All right, this motivation strategy here is the fuel that goes in the tank that's going to drive you to your goal. Surround yourself by visuals that are going to push you towards your goal. And then surround yourself by visuals that give you the feeling that made you act on that motivation. And that's the fuel, that's the gas that's going to propel you forward. All right, it's really cool stuff. I'll give you an example. If you want to be motivated to go to the gym, if your goal is to look fabulous, to be in great shape, surround yourself by visuals of people who look like the body that you want. As weird as that sounds, put some visuals in the mirror in the morning. Put a visual in the office. If the next thing is having some kind of feeling, look in the mirror and pretend you see yourself. And how do you feel as that person? And boom. Another thing that I do is, to me, a lot of the times I have a lot of ambition, but it's putting it into action. It's having the energy and putting aside enough time to jump into it. So what I'll do is, sounds cheesy, but I do it at home. If I'm ever at the gym and I need to go to the gym, I'm the guy that it takes a long time to motivate. I know I have to go, so I'll go. But to get motivated to go, I actually have a weight in my room. So whenever I'm ready to go to the gym, and if I don't feel like it, I'll pick up the weight. And the way it feels makes me go. Because I'm like, oh man, it feels really good once you're in there. Sometimes before you start doing something, you're motivated, but then you're like, you're losing motivation. But once you get there, it's going to start to pick up and you're going to be right back where you left off. That's what the feel is designed for, to give you that feeling or a taste of what it's really going to be like. Once you know your motivation strategy and you start to replicate it, there's no way you're not going to hit your goal. You've already achieved your goal. In fact, it's already fact because you've put it into your timeline. Cool? Some of you might be feel and then, in the rare occasion, there's people who feel and then taste, or feel and hear. All right? Don't judge yourself. You are who you are. You need what you need, and you're beautiful in every way. All right? Cool? So here's what we've done in tonight's session. I've showed you what goals could be based on, the life wheel, the 6 steps. Showed you how to do a SMART goal in the NLP, neuro-linguistic practitioner way, or neuro-linguistic programming way. I've shown you how to do milestones, so you reverse engineer, work your way back to create a plan, how to implant that goal into your future timeline, and how to energize that goal through motivation. Now, I got a couple last things. Goals are greater than you. I'm going to tell you guys this. Be careful with goals. Before you want, be sure to give. Give more than you receive. I really believe this from the bottom of my heart. Giving is a way more empowering feeling than receiving. And Helping others get what you want first is the fastest way to you getting it yourself. Does that make sense to you guys? Does it really make sense? Because if you think about it, if you want, I don't know, what's something that I want? If I want to be in shape for my wedding, helping somebody online with some comments and tips and motivation of how they could do it for themselves is going to be the fastest way for me to do it. There's this concept of networking in the professional field. They say get to know people. That way you have a good network so you could ask for stuff. It's a whole bunch of BS. It should be called net giving. Get to know people and give them stuff, not because you expect something in return, but because you do it out of your heart. Did you guys know that from an energy level, if you give somebody something with the expectation of a return, you automatically negate that act of giving. You kill the positivity on it. It's as if though you did nothing. So always give with the intention as a gift, never to receive anything. If you're giving to receive something, I'm going to question your motive. I'm going to question whether or not you really deserve to have it, number one. Well, you deserve it, but do you really want it if you're doing it strategically? Feel compassion, feel love towards your goals, towards others, feel connected and responsible for yourself and others. So let me give you guys a cool, when you say why, a really cool, who likes science? Who's a factual person? Who likes astrology, actually? This is going to be cool. And then we're going to end off on this note, and then I'll do the superhero pattern for you, Lori. This is, you guys know the Hubble telescope. This is called an optical view. Optical means this telescope sees the way you see. If I lodged you into space, if I kicked you in the butt and sent you into orbit, this is what you would see with your eyes, because the Hubble telescope has a very similar optical lens and optical view to yourself. What do you guys see in this picture? Stars. What's in between the stars? Stars, starlight. It just looks like a whole bunch of individual galaxies, right? Space. Now, check this out. This is called the Chandra telescope. It's got an energy sensor looking at the exact same thing the Hubble telescope is. What do you see here? Everything's actually interconnected. Do you see that? There is no space. There is no void. It's all connected through energy. So therefore, entities that look to be individual and separate are interconnected by an energy field. Your optical eyes don't see it, but the energy sensors pick it up. Now check this out. This is going to blow your mind. Did you know that your heart has a measurable electromagnetic field? And I took electricity for 2.5 years before I dropped out. Studied electricity to somewhat of an extensive degree. It looks like this. Your heart actually emits an energy field that's measurable. So if you want to create your own device, you could do it. You go to Home Depot, get these components. You could build it for pretty cheap, actually. This thing straps around your body. All right. You get an accelerator, hook it up to a power supply, and you'll be able to measure this. Now, when it was measured, the group doing the research said the following. They said, you can only 8 feet out from a human, 8 feet away from a human, you could measure their EMF from their heart. And one of the guys asked the researchers, why only 8 feet? Like, what is it about 8 feet that makes the heart measurable? And the researcher laughed and said, that's the limit and capability of our technology. That's all that we could measure. After 8 feet, it loses its sensitivity to pick it up. But theoretically, it could be infinite. All right, so I'm going to tell you guys this. Through your goals, through your life, through your journey, everybody feels like life is this. On the left side, like we're a Hubble telescope. You got Leonard over here, Laurie over there on the other side, Ronnie, Laurent, Tasha all over the place. And we have our own individual lives, but at the end of the day, what we do doesn't really affect one another. No, that's a big no. We're not a Hubble telescope. We're a Chandra telescope. We are interconnected. And I bet you this is my belief, this is beyond science at this point, but I bet you that if you had a strong enough meter, Tasha and I's energy fields overlap at this very instant. Ronnie, you and I, we're overlapping. Laurent, who else is coming here? David, Ernest, all of you guys, everyone here tonight, we overlap with one another. We are one. And if you don't believe in that, think about the last time somebody that you loved felt hurt. You felt it too. Right? You felt the energy. We're there. We're connected. So therefore, the reason I include this in a goal setting class is this. If your goal is to help others and if your goal is to be centered towards giving, you're connected to the people you're giving to. You're going to benefit right back. All right? So view us as one, not separate. And it makes goal setting so much more fun. All right? Some of my goals, like, how is that going to help you? It's like, well, in ways that you may not understand. Sometimes I feel compelled to do stuff for other people. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I get a feeling that if I do something, I'm enabling them to do something that's not right. And I trust my instinct, because your instinct is your connection to that person. Instinct isn't something that's a muscle. Instinct is your connection. It's an intuitive feeling. All right? I wanted to leave it off on that note for you guys. Every single moment when we interact with people, the ones that are closest, obviously we feel like we can interact with them because we could see them. It makes sense to us from a physiology perspective, but we are all connected. So keep that in mind. All right, next lesson. We're going to look at the conclusion of trading psychology. It's going to be the last lesson. We're going to talk about routine. I'll give you guys some very actionable steps to create routine. I'm going to also talk to you about how to build a solid day trading routine and any routine that you'd like to appease your subconscious mind so it accepts it, takes the routine and integrates it right away. It doesn't question it. All right, I'm going to show you how to put all this crazy stuff together in a nice bow tie, and I'm going to give you the Rockstar Trader meditation. All right, that's what I got for you guys today. Did you enjoy today's session? If you win a trade, somebody else loses. What about the ecological principle? Vlad, here's the thing. What are they losing? What if that person is losing money, and after they lose the money, they actually move on to something that they're fulfilled with? Have you helped them or hurt them by contributing to that? Right? That's where the ecology is. I know trading, sometimes people say, well, how am I adding value to society? But you are. What if somebody's selling their shares on the stock market that needs to pay for, I don't know, a funeral for somebody, or they need to go on their dream vacation? Let's keep it positive. And you're the person that goes out there and buys it for them in a trade. You're actually enabling them. You know what I mean? That's my defense. It's like, all right, I'll give you a pass somewhat. Exactly, Lori. Lori, you point out a good point. Also, money at the end of the day, money's so ironic. Everybody thinks that's what's going to make you happy. It's the emptiest feeling in the world to have money and nothing else. I promise you guys that, because I've had a taste of that. All right. It's the purpose. The money's got to be, remember, it's the gas pedal. If you're in a race car on the highway going full tilt with your car weaving through traffic, that's psychotic if you're not going anywhere. If you're driving to see somebody that you love and something's about to happen to them and you're doing it to save them, or driving your wife to the hospital to give birth, then it's okay, right? It's what you do needs to be towards a good intent. If you take the money and do good with it, you're going to be fulfilled in those ways, and positive energy comes back. I'm not at odds with day trading for a living, and I'm not at odds knowing that I'm taking money from somebody else. I'm really not. However, I'm going to tell you this. If you look at it and ecologically say, look, I don't agree with what's happening, I would have all the respect in the world for you if you got up and said, this isn't for me, and did something else, 100%. And I would understand. But that's something you got to ask yourself ecologically, like, what The question I would get you to ask yourself here is, once you get your goal of this success through trading, what will you do with it? And if you're going to do good, you deserve it. Because what's going to end up happening is you're going to take money from people who aren't doing good with it, and if you do good with it, it'll come to you. You know what I mean? That's my vision in the monetary system. And on top of it all, the system that we've created is basically one that puts a lot of value on the economy. I think the things we value in society today have, in the last 10,000 years, never had value to any of the other humans. I think if somebody from the old age, I'm talking about like the ancient Egyptians, came by and looked at us and be like, what the heck are you guys doing? You know what I mean? It'd be like you yelling at your 2-year-old child when they're picking their nose and eating food with their hand. It's like, what are you guys doing? You have all this opportunity and this is what you're doing with it. However, you're still within the system. To break out of it, you got to be good within the system and do good things with those proceeds. And that's what I believe life is. I can go deep in this discussion because I don't think the Egyptians were the actual ancient civilization. I think life's existed for way longer than 5,000 years. There are artifacts that are getting pulled out of rocks that are 30, 40, 50,000 years old that are gear wheels, which means another civilization before us had a gear wheel, which means that gear wheel serves some kind of mechanical purpose. I mean, anyways, I'm going way out there. But what I'm saying is this. Do good for the right reasons, good will come to you. Watch out, Goldman. Yeah, Lori, I read about that, right? The underwater civilizations. There's one in right on the border of Syria and Turkey. What was it called? Literally, they're buried ruins. The date 9,000 years back, based on archaeology. 9,000 years. They're round areas with pillars standing vertical. A lot of artifacts buried in them, and purposely and intentionally buried 9,000 years ago, which means if you intentionally bury something 9,000 years ago, you go back and that's something would have to be created over at least a couple hundred, so that might be 11,000 years from the start of that civilization. I believe there's a lot of civilizations. There's an Indian civilization that there's a story written about that they said people died. This is written in this exact language. People were running away from a magnificent cloud in the sky. Right? And then when Oppenheimer developed the nuclear weapon, he referenced that story exactly down to the T. When they said, how do you feel about creating the first nuclear weapon? He said, I didn't create the first nuclear weapon. I created the first nuclear weapon of this civilization. How nuts is that? Anywho, and he studied a lot of this Indian civilization and background. I want to be selective with what I say. Anywho, that's way over the scope of this. It was aliens. It could have been, right? Anywho, guys, any questions, comments? You enjoy this lesson? Next week we round it out, and I'm hopeful that you got a lot of tools to change your life. And as a side benefit, make your trading better. I'll show you guys my goals for this course, and you'll see the number one goal wasn't to make you a better trader. That's going to happen regardless. You're welcome, Wendy. Welcome, Michael. Ronnie, take care. Everyone else on board. Brian. Brian's like, what did I walk into? Brian's a new guy. Brian, you got to watch the first 5 lessons. Don't judge me. David, thank you. Detmar, Ernest, Iwan, Jean-Luc, Laurent, the 2 Frenchmen side by side in the webinar. Lori, Len, Marjorie, Marky, Michael, Romana, Ronnie, Scott, Tasha, Vlad, Wendy. Thanks a bunch. Romana, you're new as well. How are you enjoying this stuff? You really need to watch some of the lessons before until you get to this moment. Vlad, thank you, sir, for participating and for your commentary. You sparked good discussion. You guys have a great evening. All the best to you and your families. I got nothing but love for you. And you guys have to know I'm sending you positive energy out there. Whatever your goal is, I believe in it 100%. So you have no choice but to believe in it. All right? Let's kick some butt together. So you guys have a good evening. Day traders, see you tomorrow morning. Swing traders, see you on the weekend. Take care. All the best. Have a great night. Goodbye.